The winter of 1917 was the coldest France had seen in 40 years. In April, there was still snow on Vimy Ridge. The Germans controlled the ridge, and thousands of French and British lives had been lost trying to capture it. Now, it was the Canadians' turn. At 5 a.m. on Easter Monday, April 9th, 30,000 troops huddled below the ridge, many of them in subterranean caverns that had been dug, waiting for the signal. Zero hour was 5:30. The attack had been meticulously planned. Behind the lines, a replica of Vimy Ridge had been created, and the Canadians trained there until they knew the terrain as well as the Germans. They had detailed maps supplied by reconnaissance flights. If old Kaiser Bill only saw the preparations that had been made, wrote 21-year-old Lieutenant Claude Williams, he would throw up the sponge, I'm sure. Each of the 4 divisions had an objective indicated by a colored line. The black line was the enemy's forward defenses. The red line was the taking of Hill 145. The blue line included Hill 135, and the brown line was the German second line. The coordinated assaults were timed to the minute. At 5:30, more than 3,000 pieces of artillery roared. The first wave of 15,000 infantry stormed the ridge. The German machine guns were devastating, but the infantry pushed through to the front line trenches. By 6:15, the black line had been taken. Concealed by snow and smoke, the 1st Division advanced toward the red line. By 7 a.m., the German defenses had been cleared, although casualties were mounting. By 11 a.m., the blue line was in Canadian hands, and by 2 p.m., the brown line was secure. By the end of the following day, all that remained was the Pimple, the northern tip of the ridge, which was defended by Prussian guards. At 5 a.m. on April 12th, the Canadians hit the Pimple with heavy artillery. The 10th Brigade advanced and met with fierce hand-to-hand fighting. By 6 a.m., the position was taken. "I am King of the Pimple," declared Brigadier General Edward Hilliam. Vimy was taken, though the costs were high: 10,602 casualties, 3,598 dead. But in 6 days, the Corps had advanced 5 kilometers, taken Vimy Ridge, taken 4,000 prisoners, killed many of the enemy, and captured its guns. "The grandest day the Corps has ever had," said Major General Arthur Currie. "The attack was carried out exactly as planned. The sight was awful and wonderful." Vimy Ridge defined the Canadian Corps. It was filled with men who had been born in Britain, but they now considered themselves Canadian. They had proven themselves as an elite corps. They had accomplished what the French and British couldn't. Gregory Clark, an infantry lieutenant, wrote, "As far as I could see south, north, along the miles of the ridge, there were Canadians, and I experienced my first full sense of nationhood. At home, the country felt the same way. Vimy Ridge became a touchstone of Canadian nationalism, our proudest moment in the war."